Free Hands by Rob Plonskier. The billionaire sat at his grand mahogany desk at the top of his tower. The office was expansive, but one didn't need to look far before a particular display caught the attention. A steel cage, thick steel bars running up to the ceiling, constructed not to complement any of the office's wide swath of wall space, but smack dab there in the middle of the floor, so that one could circle around it and take in from any direction the cage's contents, so that one could poke and prod if needed or desired, and inside this cage was one man, huddled into a ball. This man was a multi-millionaire, by all accounts. He had many millions of dollars in multiple accounts, many of them offshore, confined and asleep in the middle of the afternoon, no less. And as rumpled as he was, oftentimes the billionaire, in fits of whimsy, or in the throes of some indignant slight by forces unable to be bought, in seizures of power-mongering, would pace before the cage or pace around it or just stand in place, and he would call him names, he would degrade him verbally. You are of lesser net value than I will ever be. You are practically worthless. Why are you doing this to me? The response would follow. Never once did any one of my entities do business with you. Other times the billionaire would force him, sometimes using the delicate art of persuasion, sometimes at gunpoint, to undress from his very expensive three-piece suit. Once fully disrobed, he would usually force him to redress, and then, once redressed, to undress once more, and this could go on, dress and undress, for quite some time, and even on a few occasions, when certain favored stocks and holdings had plummeted, or when his reputation had taken a rather vicious beating from those in the media, this sort of behavior could go on long into the late hours of the night, long after the city's glow from down below had dimmed. This in addition to the electroshocks, the hot coffee, the swords, the steroid-injected ibex coat, the fireballs. It was all to remind himself, the billionaire, of where he stood. He knew his standing within the uppermost reaches of the nation's economy, the world economy, atop the jungle line, the narrows, because it was still in his means to possess and conceal the multi-millionaire in the cage there with his ratty blanket and his bowl of warm milk and his nut on French baguette. But there was a practical purpose to this, as there was in all things. He fed charitable contributions to the multi-millionaire, charity in the form of checks, to organizations that did truly exist, and were expectant, except that rather than ending up in the hands of those that could benefit from them, these tersely written charity checks ended up down the throat of the multi-millionaire and then inevitably through his digestive tract, chewed on and coughed at and swallowed, to be left finally as an aftermath on the floor, in a designated area of the cage decided on by the multi-millionaire in his rare moments of lucidity. In this way, the billionaire did actually write checks donating his money to areas in need, and he did send these checks out, and he could speak of it in all truth, if so pressed. The billionaire swung around in his chair and looked down to the ground below, to the street, to the people there, grouped and amassed in opposition to his very existence. Who did they think they were? Did they think he was just going to give up all this, that there would be a swelling of emotion within him leading towards a sense of social justice? Damn it, he suffered too. He suffered mightily. Didn't they have enough? They had public transportation. They had a minimum wage. They had love and respect for one another. He did not understand these people. Did they want him to placate them? He could placate them if he wanted to. Easy. And he would. He would placate them. He rose from his chair. He turned his gaze upon the half-conscious multi-millionaire in the cage. The billionaire hit a buzzer, alerting his doctor-in-waiting to his much-needed presence. The doctor-in-waiting, roused from his adjacent room, stood before him not 2 moments later. I want you to assist me in removing both of these man's hands. The doctor-in-waiting returned a moment later with a hacksaw and heavy chain. Are you sure you want to do this? The billionaire decided not to fire the doctor-in-waiting right there and then, and instead demanded he proceed. The multimillionaire clawed and fought with whatever reserves of energy within him still remained. A coterie of assistants and even a few market analysts standing by were brought over to subdue him. "Please don't, oh God, please, 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 don't do this," was followed by, why, and then, no, 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 then screaming, and finally, oddly, thank you, with the severed hands drained of all mess, and the doctor in waiting in tow, along with the coterie of assistants and market analysts. The billionaire escorted himself to the roof of the tower. He was forced to wait 8 seconds as an assistant fumbled with the keys to one of the doors, but the billionaire was feeling generous and no one was fired. On the roof, the wind came in gusts, and the billionaire decided that something would have to be done about the weather when he was outside from now on. He walked to the edge of the building, and his coterie, knowing their place, waited behind. He held the multimillionaire's 2 hands in his hands, and he surveyed the oh-so-slight and faded mark of former calluses, ingrained from what may possibly have been distant, long ago days spent using them. They were fleshy and robust, and up until their severing, and despite his continued ill treatment seemed altogether healthy. The billionaire attributed this to his having been force-fed charity checks, and although what these checks ultimately had in regards to sustenance was only paper and ink, he liked to think that it was the spirit of contribution that kept the multimillionaire in a better physical state than he might have otherwise been. The billionaire looked down upon the people, so far away. This is what would placate them. This was what they really wanted. The charity check enriched hands of a multimillionaire. It would quit their moaning. They would go home satisfied, thirst quenched, fulfilled, accomplished. He dropped the hands and watched them plummet towards the ground. Now no one anywhere above or below, or anywhere at all upon this God-forsaken earth, and especially not his conscience, especially not he himself, with his occasional recrimination, his occasional shallow recrimination, his occasional variant of self-loathing. Not one single person, anywhere, at any time, could say he didn't give back to the people.